Well, good morning. So I really would just like to start with a brief presentation because I really don't want to tell you what I think you want to hear. I want to answer questions and talk about what you want to know. But I think it is good to at least set the tone. Mic up a little bit more. That is the second time now in a year that someone's told me to speak up. It's usually telling me to shut up, so I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate the help. I think it's really clear that we set kind of the tone of why we're here today and why this ordinance was put forward. I think there's a misnomer that this is a new initiative, that this is new to define the downtown as customer parking only. Now, I'll tell you, my communication partner set up a really good PowerPoint, and I am known to not ever follow the PowerPoint. So you guys just give me the turn around and look and see. We can hit the next slide. That's me. I'm the ruggedly handsome one over here. Jay Chambeau behind us, our great city administrator. Do y'all know Jay? Great. And Jess Wilds, who is our great communications director and economic development, and put the PowerPoint and tells me when I should talk more or talk less. So, next one. Yeah, so let's talk about that. So it sounds like there's this perception in the community. What I'm hearing is that this is this brand new initiative to make it more difficult for employees downtown. And it's just not the case. There's actually been an ordinance that's actually more restrictive on the books for the last 20 years. It was about a 6-page ordinance that was very complicated. It would require you, as I'm assuming this is mostly employees or employers, would require the employers to file, register their cars for the Downtown Association, and then the city to keep a spreadsheet and log of all employees and their cars. It would require you to file for a permit when you wanted to come down here as a private citizen and stop at the popcorn store or come see a movie. It required you to hang a permit. That's been in place for 20 years. And that ordinance has been on the books. So this is not a new initiative. If anything, our hope was to simplify that initiative and make it a tool for enforcement for the people who are willingly violating that ordinance and not being good neighbors. Through our process, and this has been a very open and transparent process, I hope you've been aware of that. We'll have a slide coming up here in a little bit to show you the public meetings, and if not, a tool for you to catch up and watch some of that conversation and the public input that we've had. Through that process, we learned that this issue has actually been in place since 1959. 1959, so 64 years this has been at least a formal issue. And Mr. Herb Tennis gave us a great history lesson at one of the meetings. It's on, we'll give you a tool to look at that meeting, and talked about the fact that when Main Street was Highway 45, and economic driver, that was an issue they identified in 1959 as a problem, that employees were parking in the spots and not allowing any spots for customers. So do you know what the solution was in 1959? Crowd encouragement, crowd participation. Anyone want to take a guess? They all agreed to have the employees park across the river at a big public lot. That sounds kind of familiar. That's exactly what we're asking. We'll have a slide in a little bit. I'm sure that talks about how many spots are open. In fact, I parked in the MOA this morning to walk over for that. So the same solution, 64 years later, I hate to say it because our team felt like we were pioneers. We were really coming forward with a strong initiative. They already thought of this 64 years ago, and that's been in place. So the ordinance today that we're presenting to you and giving you a chance to ask some questions about is really a simplification and a recycle of that same process, so the same problem. So when I became chief, it was one of my goals to address that ordinance that was on the books, because I have a very strong belief that we should not have laws that we don't enforce. We should not have laws that are unenforceable. That's not good policing. That's not good government. So that was certainly one that we addressed. And I'm sure you're aware, over the last several years, we tried to maybe work around the edges. We put out some letters that said, hey, remember this ordinance is here, and if we don't abide by it, we're going to take the next step. Well, this is kind of that next step, is just to simplify the ordinance, make it easier for people to follow, and address the concerns of the downtown. I came into it with a couple of different options and presented to the bid board. I shouldn't say our team came into it and presented different options to the bid board, which is my understanding represents all of you as employers and employees in the downtown. And we had the spectrum of options. I made it very clear that from a police department standpoint, from a public safety standpoint, I had very little interest in a downtown parking ordinance because there's no crashes, there's no obstruction of traffic, there weren't any of those public safety issues. But that's only a part of what we do in government and as the police department. So from a public safety point, I was open to the idea of just removing the ordinance altogether and having a laissez-faire approach, letting, I guess, capitalism sort it out, right? If there weren't spots and businesses had to close, I guess that'd be a couple other spots that would open because those businesses were no longer here. Now that didn't sound like a good idea to me or to anybody, but we certainly offered it. The second idea that we had was parking meters. There's new technology that is, it's called ELPers. It's a license plate reader, and it would automatically read the license plate, and if we would put a time frame on it, and your customers would receive tickets, or the employees would receive tickets. Very clearly, that was not an option that the bid wanted to pursue because they didn't want a barrier to customers coming down here. And that made sense to me as well, right? Don't put the onus on the people we're trying to get here to make sure those businesses survive. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a step. What became very clear to me that it was still a desire to have some type of ordinance. It became very, very clear to me that my laissez-faire approach was not an option. The businesses were very much in favor, that were represented at bid, of having some type of ordinance to make sure that we could maintain downtown as a viable economic driver. And so then we moved to, okay, then here's your options, parking meters. That was not something, one, for the again, for the barrier towards customers, but also the unsightliness of having popsicles at every parking stall reading it. So that was something that was discussed. We talked about time, which if you've been around West Bend long enough, you remember we used to have a time. You could park for 4 hours or park for 2 hours, and we had community service officers that rode that 3-track down and would chalk your tires. And so that was brought up as an option, and that was something that we remember people that use time, and again, if you've been here long enough, you know how we got around that. You parked in one spot before lunch and parked in another spot after lunch. So it didn't really solve the problem. The employees, the people who were intentionally violating could find their way around it. So then we got to the final option that we're here, and that's just a simplification of that ordinance, a tool for us, posted restrictions, a tool for us to enforce the people who are willingly violating, who are choosing to be bad neighbors. Okay? That's a huge part of this. This isn't some new draconian effort to move people out. This is a tool for us that simplifies an existing ordinance to give us a tool to enforce people who are willingly violating, who refuse to take care about their neighbors. So, and I'm not being dramatic about that. We learned through some of the public listening sessions that it was a common practice to park, to understand there was value in customer parking, so you would park 5 or 6 stores down from yours or your business and then walk over. And we learned that was not an uncommon practice. There's, again, a link to these meetings, and you can see that in place. And I was not feeling well that night, and I said, I'm crabby when I'm sick, but boy, am I disappointed to hear that, right? And I think you all are too. So that's kind of how we're getting, that's how we're here today, is we knew it would be something that puts an inconvenience on the employees and employers, and so we tried to make it as transparent, thank you, Jess, as transparent as a process as possible. We've had many public listening sessions, public input. Were you all aware of those? Okay, good, yeah, and so we had them. So if nothing else, maybe to reinstill your faith in your local government, it would be great. You can QR those or go online and watch some of those meetings. And I was really impressed that the public came and spoke up. Took a little goading to get them up to the podium at first, because it can be unnerving, unless you're an egotistical maniac like myself that likes to be in front of crowds. But I'm kidding. Public servant, actually. But the public came and they gave us all this input. And I left those meetings, I'll be honest with you, I was really leaning towards that laissez-faire approach. I really, and kind of in keeping with our whole limited government theme and those things, I was leaning towards that until I left those meetings and heard from the public. And one of our pillars at the police department and in government is responsiveness to the community. Excellence in policing, accountability, and responsiveness to the community. Under that responsiveness piece, it was very clear, there was no question from at least the people that came to those meetings and spoke that they wanted something in place. So we move forward, and that's where we are today. Yeah, no, let's go to that one. That's a great one, actually. Can you go back just to the public stalls available? It was, I don't want to say ironic because I want to be respectful, but as I listened to Mr. Tennis provide us this historical perspective and how the solution was to move people to a lot across the river that was big enough to have as many employees as we needed, and probably I'll be guessing, but probably in 59, I'm going to guess it wasn't 250 spots. I'm going to guess it was nowhere near that. Now, granted, our downtown has grown as well, but I bet ratio-wise, we have more parking available now in those public lots. So we have 252 spots in the parking, now maybe the map. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're really good at that. So the blue, the public parking, that's no permit, free. You can park there. You can actually park there overnight. The only thing we ask is that you move your car every 24 hours. So you can't leave your junker sitting in there. Can't leave it over for a week. And why? Because sometimes we need to plow. Sometimes we want to make sure we're identifying that there aren't junker vehicles left. So our only ordinance restriction on those lots is 24 hours, cars got to move. And it can move from one stall to the other. 75 feet, I know it says. But there's 252 spots right there. Then we have another additional 100 or so of permit lots, right? And you know those as the walnut and the hickory lot. My understanding is since we started this initiative, those permits have become a hot commodity. I don't know, do we know how much? There's none left, it's full, yeah. So there is a provision though, if you're still interested in those, there's a provision in the ordinance if someone turns in their permit that the next one on the list is offered it. So if you have, yep. Sure, City Hall, our city clerk's office will walk you through it. It is not a difficult process. When you walk in the City Hall doors right across from McDonald's, it's the first window. Our great clerks are there to help you. Casey, Lisbeth, and Michelle will walk you through. It's a quick form. I should know what it costs. No. Nope. You file for the permit. Yep. First come, first serve. I know a lot of businesses, historically, have maintained those permits. And there was always a few open, but again, now since our process has moved forward, which is great, right? That kind of indicates to us that we're changing behaviors in a positive way and getting people to just get in the little push they needed to be a better neighbor. And then, of course, there's public parking on 7th, although just in a reality, we all know those are going to fill up pretty quick. So I don't know. I would look at but it's important to show. We're talking by my quick, dumb cop math, right? We're closing in on 500 spots available, and that's not counting all those other public spots around the way. So what's the goal? The goal is to make sure your businesses stay open, make sure your customers have a great experience. Let's maybe the actual ordinance, because I think, yeah, hi. Is that the Arts Center public parking? Yeah, that's a great question. MOA is absolutely public parking. So MOA used to be, I'll give you the quick history on this. MOA used to be a city lot. The city built the lot, paid for the lot, sold it to MOA in an agreement in 2018, but the stipulation was that it will always remain open for public parking. There's some side agreement, like if they're having a major event, and we want to be good neighbors too, that we can close it. But the only reason the city sold it only reason the sale went through is MOA's agreement that it would always be a public lot. So yes, it's available. Yep. Great question. Ordinance itself, please. Hi, yeah.
So is that the blue line on there, is that the blue line? Yeah.
Yes, it is. So right across from Veterans, right? Right across. I parked there today, and I parked right there's a great little sidewalk that goes through those beautiful alders that lines up right with the South Footbridge. Got me right here. I mean, quite honestly, I had a shorter walk than some days when I would come downtown and it was packed full, that, walking 2-3 blocks. And it was beautiful. And it'll be really pretty when that river walk is done, huh? Holy smokes, is that an awesome project.
If I made a full sale, when we say sold it, the city, just so people in the audience know.
I think we should make him use the mic, right? He made me.
Thanks, Chief.
Yes. I think you got to use this
No,
one.
no.
Oh, I'll repeat it.
I'll
Yeah.
be close enough to
Okay.
We hang out together.
Yeah.
I was just going to share that the MOA lot, I was part of the negotiation when that happened at the city level, and we sold it for $1. So
Okay.
the city's not the greatest negotiators at times.
Okay, good.
But we did that very intentionally. We weren't trying to stick it to MOA by selling it to them for $100,000 and then saying, oh, by the way, it's got to remain public lot. So everybody knows it was eyes wide open, public parking all the time. We've had the big blue peas in that lot and around town directing people to that lot for the last several years. Thanks, Chief.
Oh, perfect. That is what we call a partner, because he knew I wanted to say so bad we sold it for $1, but he knew I was being a good soldier. So thanks, Jay. Yeah. Does the bid go to Chestnut? Yes. No, that's different. The bid district is different than the customer parking zone, right? That's two different things. So it's hard to see, but Poplar. Poplar is that cutoff, because that's a great question, and that's some of the impact we put in. Quite honestly, that's further than I initially thought. I thought we were going to stop at Walnut. We extended to Poplar, and rightfully so, because we know we're pushing employee parking, we're pushing that south or to these, we're pushing it to the public lots, but we know realistically all of those businesses there are going to be parking on filling up that Poplar down to Chestnut. So that was the reasonable kind of compromise to not push it all the way to Chestnut. Chestnut also starts to be more residential. We're starting to creep into that residential area in the, pardon? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm right on the point where it stops.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that in front of my building gets parked full in my renters. So there's like 10 cars parked there every day on either side.
On Poplar or on Chestnut?
Main Street.
On Main Street, in front of,
Bits and pieces floor on my floor.
sure,
Has like 10.
on,
And there's no
Yep.
residential. It's all still business.
so you'd recommend that we move that further south?
This has to do with the district.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what my.
okay. I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. Now, one of the things that was definitely discussed is this was kind of our first kick at the cat, if you will, and we know Main Street construction is going to be a challenge, but it's certainly going to be worth it. If you haven't seen those plans, it's going to be so gorgeous when it's done. So we're going to all have to gut it out for a little bit. But one of the conversations we had is once that's complete, in fact, I remember specifically at a council meeting, our city administrator indicated he had an Outlook reminder, this to pop up for us to reassess specifically the map and the area that's in there. So I hear your comments and we'll take that into consideration. Yep. I think it was January of 24 was the Outlook, right? Or maybe December, yeah. So I hear you. Hi.
How does the ordinance feel about parking overnight in that orange, like the ACE lot, after 5, but your car is gone before 9? How do we feel about that?
Yeah. Nope, there's the ordinance is, okay, so she's wondering what happens after 5 o'clock. There is there is another ordinance that hits that, and that's the 3 to 6 no parking, but I believe that's just on the streets. I don't think that's in the lot. Right? Thank you, Brian. Yeah. And my Lieutenant McAndrews in the back, he's here to make sure I don't say anything dumb too. And he's our expert. But yes, so maybe the ordinance would be a good spot, Jess. That's a great question. That brings up, thank you. I should have probably started with that. Here's what the ordinance says. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. 9 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. 6 p.m., you can park wherever you'd like. 7 p.m., you can park wherever you like. You can park on the streets until 3 a.m. From 3 to 6, all cars have to be out of the downtown. That's when we do our maintenance on the streets, our plowing, and that's been in place forever. That's not a change. So you can certainly park in that lot after.
The other thing that, I used to park on Veterans, because I work in downtown and I live in downtown.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many of us that is. I would be curious how many that don't have spots within their,
Yeah.
tent, with their apartment.
Sure.
I don't know. I know there's 3 of us for sure, that are currently downtown. I used to park on Veterans in summer
Yeah.
overnight, but now I did see that looks like that's no longer an option. Are the signage there gonna change to make that a little more clear?
Oh, yeah. I think the signs are up already. No, they're coming, yeah. Thank you, yeah.
So
It's a supply chain issue.
So I am correct in that that
Yeah.
is not an overnight option on Veterans.
Correct. Well, Veterans was always 3 to 6. But you're, right?
In summer, I used to be.
I'd have to think. I don't know if Veterans included in the downtown or if that was a winter parking.
Because I used to get tickets and then I called you guys and then
Okay.
some of your staff wasn't.
So it's probably December through April is the winter parking. Yeah, confusing.
So that one will probably have to be, I don't know.
Well, Veterans is now within this customer parking area, at least through, again, until we do that review and through the,
Chief, I believe there's no parking on Veterans overnight from 3 a.m. to 6.
that's included in the downtown. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. Thank you, Lieutenant. Sorry. Yeah, so, and under that same premise that it's in that downtown district, and that's when our DPW and their subcontractors focus on the infrastructure in there. So, good question, though. Good question. Have you been finding a spot to park?
Oh, yeah, it's totally fine. The 75 feet is a little bit hard for me at Moa because I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it's like I'm just kind of like, I move my car.
Oh.
I know my neighbors were concerned, like sometimes they go up north, but I tried to, they were a little more angry. And I was like, we're not trying, like you don't have any health concerns, you can walk. And if you're going on vacation, I really don't think whoever's monitoring down there, if it would be a big problem if we were always doing that, but I said, I don't think they're trying to like make us so we can't live, they're just trying to find that happy.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being reasonable and advocating. That's exactly right. I think the biggest time that it's a concern is in winter when there's plowing operations that need to occur. And you're right. Like most of our laws, I mean, our cops aren't circling the parking lots waiting for a violation. Unfortunately, we've got other things to be working on in the city,
Or with
right?
elderly that are
Most of our laws are in place to make sure it's the person that's intentionally violating and continuously violating. So if your neighbor goes up north for the weekend, they're not coming back to a ticket, unless maybe there's some weird circumstance with a plowing operation, but probably not even then. And most of the time with our 24-hour violations, we work with the owners to move the car before enforcement's taken. If they leave and go to Belize for 3 months and the car's there, then we might have to have a little different conversation. And Lieutenant McAndrews, thankfully, is the guy that handles all those. So he's the nicest guy in the world. Well, one of them. Great question, though. I love that we're in question and answer. I had 28 more minutes to go, so I'm just
What
kidding.
are the options then of getting from these public parking lots to our employment on the crossing over the river?
Maps, please. Yep. Yep, so you have the 2 beautiful footbridges, right? You have the one, we call them north and south. So you have the one, and there's a really nice clean-cut sidewalk that gets you right to that from Moa, or following all the sidewalks down. You obviously have Veterans, or Water Street rather, that you can walk through that roundabout, and there's a nice little pocket park there once you cross the bridge. And then 33, so that's 4 separate bridge points to get across depending where you're at. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I guess so. What's happening next to the theater here, is that opening up?
That will open up, yes. Yeah, when the construction's done, that's going to be absolutely open as a breezeway. There won't be a bridge there. You understand that, right? But like again, I just walked and I thought the same thing as well. That'll be real. It was a horse apiece. I skidded down to the alley, or if I would have came up this way. But yes, that will be open, and not just open. It's going to be gorgeous. Some of the plans for it. Yeah, great question though. Hi.
I can share, I did reach out to Municipal Church as well, and they were really gracious and said it's our mission to leave this be, a lot that anybody can use. You do not need a permit for it. So they called me right back, because we were told by our employer we could park over there. But really, for us, parking across that whole is almost quicker than parking over in the church.
Sure.
So that's also a spot.
They're good neighbors. It's not a city lot, it's a private lot, so I'll let them speak for them, but I will just reinforce. The Emmanuel Church parking lot, which is right across from our library, you're going to see some activity in there. Maybe I could give the mic to Gina. We're going to see some activity in that lot in the summer to keep some of our great activities that we've come used to knowing. Music on Main, for instance. In that lot. But they're great neighbors, but I can't speak for them. It's a private lot. So. But they're great neighbors. Hint, hint. Hi.
Years ago, when we had the wall across the river,
Yeah,
which a few of us might remember.
I do.
There was a covered, enclosed
Yeah.
bridge walkway across that.
Yeah.
And I know we've had a mild winter,
yeah,
but we're not gonna always have a mild winter.
right.
I'm a little bit more concerned with the eating and restaurants in this beautiful theater
Yeah.
and the amount of parking, people having to walk 3-4 blocks across that river when it's 10 below zero.
Okay.
Has there been any discussion?
Well, it's a good question, but remember that this ordinance doesn't apply after 5 p.m., so hopefully there'll be parking here. Yeah, that might be another topic, but I'll tell you from a cop standpoint, when that was covered and closed, that was always a concern for us because that's a great place for someone to be hiding out. Plus, I'll share with you a little insight into cop life. One of your jobs as a young midnight shift officer, which I was in 1995, is to go and clear it at 12:30 when we got off a briefing, is to clear that footbridge and make sure it was safe and then lock it up because we knew that was a place people would gather and actually it was a safety concern. You know the biggest concern? Spider webs. You'd walk through and I'd be combing out of my hair. So Lieutenant's laughing because he did the same thing. I'm sure some of you, if you're old enough, you remember walking through those spider webs. So it's open. It's going to be open through the alley, and that's a bit of a safety, but also just a combination. But that's probably yeah. So I don't. So no, there's no conversation to close that off again. And I'd be against closing it off. I understand what you're saying, but I think in the
I just wanted to know if that was a discussion.
yeah no.
And I guess my question is not related to this ordinance, so
It's okay.
I'll email me or something later.
Okay. Or we're going to hang out after, so you can come and talk to us after.
Well, and just a quick update on not the covered bridge, because there will be no additional bridge added to the Riverwalk project, but the covered alley is under construction right now, and it will be greatly improved with additional lighting and a new walkway with some stairs. You'll be able to actually see the river from Main Street. We're going to leave both ends open. It's going to be pretty awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Thanks, partner. Yeah. See, and I thought the roof was off of that alley, so it's good to have the experts here. Yep, right next to us here. Yeah, yeah. Lots of spider webs. Creepy. Yeah. Hi.
You've spoken a lot about safety. We have a concern. Will there be some sort of community officer or escort? We have a lot of 16-year-old girls, and when they leave work and it's dark and music on Main and alcohol's involved, we'll be walking a distance.
So they'd be parking within the 9 to 5 and then would be leaving after that? Is that what you're saying?
They'll be leaving at 8 o'clock at night.
But they would have started between 9 and 5
Can't
or
move the
something?
car because
Sure.
We always work alone. So,
Well, I'm glad you asked. So part of this initiative is we are hiring a full-time community service officer, and one of their primary duties will be downtown, but it will be during the hours of daylight. So from 8 to 4, 9 to 5. But they'll be here every Monday through Friday. We're also using them to enhance our school safety program, but their primary duty will be down here. But hopefully, if you've been at Music at Maine, you've seen a pretty significant police presence, especially over the last several years. We have our great volunteers in our crime prevention patrol, but we also assign generally 2 officers. You may not see them as visible as the crime prevention patrol, but they are certainly down. They're patrolling the Riverwalk, they're patrolling the Music on Main area, and all of our officers. I'll take a time out to just mention that you have 98 of the greatest people working to make sure this is a safe community. I'm proud of every single one of them. We have some young people that are the most absolutely passionate and committed, and West Bend, even though they moved here 2-3 years ago, West Bend focused people at your police department. Fire and DPW and Parks the same, but I'm proud of the PD. So there's a huge police presence for those special events, much more than you probably see. And our officers know that downtown is a focus. So are there escorts? No, there's no plans for escorts. It is well lit. The Riverwalk program or development had that safety aspect in mind. You'll see additional lighting. There's always the extra patrols through this area. So that's certainly been addressed. But there's no escort, I guess, if that's a question. Did I answer your question? Okay, thank you. Hi.
I actually like that comment. The more I think about it, we try to do like buddy, like with one of us, or we lock the door, we walk out together, and we're further away. I know sometimes with hairdressers and things like that, that's not, that's not how the scheduling of these businesses are. But a lot of the private businesses, I think, have some cameras in. Like I know my landlord, he has cameras. My little one is very anxious, and I wasn't sure he loved living downtown, and he never felt unsafe. And I know that there are cameras that if anything happened that are situated somewhat through downtown, so if something were to happen, I think there'd be a very high likelihood that maybe one of the cameras would have documentation of something going on.
Sure. Things have changed a little bit since we were 16. If you remember call boxes or things to summon the police, every 16-year-old has a call box that is so much more efficient than anything we could install. Every kid has their cell phone with them. Every person has their cell phone. Hopefully, if you're not friends of the police department's Facebook page, please join. You've seen some of the videos. Our mantra is see something, say something. And so I'd encourage all of those with younger employees to really drive that home, that they're never bothering the police. We're your police department. We're here to serve you. If there's anything they don't feel comfortable about, they should see something, say something. They absolutely call us. If they're walking and they see someone that makes them uncomfortable. If they're walking and they don't see anyone but they're uncomfortable, all they have to do is call their police department. And I don't want to say every night we'll be down to give them a ride to their car, because that can't happen because our officers are busy. But if there's something that's going on that they don't feel safe, all they have to do is call their police department. And I guarantee you're going to get at least 2 squads. I guarantee it. Our officers are really good and very much community minded. So you're going to get that response. That's the beautiful part, right? It's the great balance of living in what we used to think of a small town as probably more of a medium-sized town now, right? It's the great balance. We're so close to so many amenities. We've got unbelievably great positive things happening here, but you still have a police department that's response time, especially for someone that's feels they're in danger, is very, very short, and we'll be here. So help us to police, right? Employers play a role. We talk about a safe community as a community that is engaged in their own safety. So employers and residents play a role in that. They can have those conversations with their employees. They can set up systems of the buddy system walking back and forth. If it's truly something, maybe it's just a weather event, this is crazy, but an employer could come in and cover the desk for a couple minutes while they go get their car and bring it closer after the ordinance is closed. There's so many things that are in our control. There's so many things we can do to not be victims or not feel like victims, that I guess it really comes back to us to do those things. But the biggest thing, you are never bothering your police department. 335-5000 if it isn't a screaming event, 911 any other time you need us, and we'll be there. That's why we're here. Thank you for letting me say that too. Feeder question maybe, huh? She's a plant. What else can we answer for you? Oh, thank you, Jess. So we have a lot of resources. You're here, but there's a lot of people that aren't here, and so you could share that with them. Or in 3 months, you're going to forget everything I said to you because life creeps in and you have other things to worry about. This is a great, so we have the QR code, but all you have to do is Google or go to our website, and there's a page devoted to our parking. It'll answer all the questions. It'll remind you what the ordinance is. Hi. Oh.
So we know the ordinance, we know where we're supposed to park. How is it going to be enforced?
Mm-hmm. Yep, thank you.
For us to call and say, hey,
Yep.
this person's
Yeah, you're our charger. Thank you. We're going right to it because the very next thing is on that page is a link to an online form because we know a barrier to you being engaged in this enforcement is picking up the phone and calling us. And it's not, I'm not criticizing you. I'm commending you because that's our Midwest mentality. We don't want to bother people. We don't want to be a pain in the butt, right? So we're not going. So we've made it even easier. There's an online form here that you can report violators. I've said it many times through this process. What we're really looking to enforce is the intentional, continuous violator that just doesn't care about their neighbors, right? We are not trying to catch the guy. Oh, John just ran in with a pot of chili. He's down there now. Go get him. That's not what this is about. That's not good government at all. We're trying to find the people who are violating the social contract intentionally, right? This ordinance is in place because our people wanted it in place. Started the conversation today to say there's no increased crashes, there's no traffic flow concerns. This law this is democracy. It's strange how it works on a local level actually very efficiently. This is what the majority of people, at least that spoke up, wanted, and so we've put this in place. So in order for it to work, you need to be engaged in that. So we're hiring a full-time CSO because we can have all the technology in the world, but it's truly the human beings who will recognize the people who are doing it. But it's completely complaint-based initially to identify because we no longer, again, remember, we're no longer requiring you to register your employees or your vehicles. We're no longer requiring you to grab permits. We're asking people to be good neighbors. And sometimes those people who aren't necessarily good neighbors need the reminder that their neighbors are watching. Sometimes that's okay, right? That's we always talk, you hear that reduce the stigma. Sometimes it's okay to have a little stigma to be a good person. That's okay. That's good. That's called social pressure. That's a good thing sometimes. Yeah. So that's how it'll work. You can call in and report. You can file this form, and what we'll do initially is we're going to come down and conduct an investigation. We'll talk to you one way or the other just to see, like, okay, was it John running in the bowl of chili, or no, this person parks every day. We've talked to them if you did, or all those things, and this is where they work. And we're going to go in and we're going to start really hard down with an educational and a warning process. I forgot to bring our warning tag. LT, did you grab one by chance? Ever see all those orange tickets that come around Thanksgiving? They're not a ticket, I'm sorry. It's a little flyer when we start warning people or noticing them about winter parking. And for like 2 weeks so people don't get tickets so they can change their behaviors. And because we're really not, this has nothing to do with revenue. It's such a fallacy. This has nothing to do with us trying to get people. That's not who we are. That's not what this community is. This is about us trying to change behaviors positively to be good neighbors. So it'll be exactly like that for probably a good month, unless we see that someone is just really giving us the finger, right, and saying, I don't care about any of you. And then we'll maybe step up that enforcement. But initially you're going to see some of those orange flags going up and just saying, come on, we're serious. And now we have this very simplified tool that just says it's posted restrictions. It's no different if you'd go to a apartment complex and you don't live there, you live across the street, but you park in that lot and it said tenant parking only. That's really what we've done, is we've simplified this ordinance to get to that so we can enforce against the people that need enforcement. And I'm hoping, if this really works well, I'm hoping we never issue, a ticket at all. And we know the timing for it. Maybe that was a question. Timing is that project coming up is a force multiplier for us, right? You're going to have to move off of Main Street in a little bit because of, bulldozers and cones, and it's shut. So this is a good time to reinforce that and just have people change their behavior. Oh, there it is. That's it. It'll be orange. It'll look just like our winter parking notices. And it'll give people a chance to change their behavior. And if they still park there, then it isn't about downtown parking. It's about they don't respect you as employees, employers, residents, all those things. Then it's about us changing their behavior because they're not being good neighbors. Hi.
So, persons with disabled license plate or name tag.
Yep.
Can park downtown.
Thank you. That's a great question. There's a state statute that exempts people with disabled placards. So if you can park in a handicap spot, this does not apply to you.
But if you have that, you can park in any other spot.
You park anywhere, hang your placard, and you will not receive a ticket. There's a state statute that prevents us from, I say prevent, but I really mean gives us the permission to not be jerks, right? If you're disabled and need to get in, we get that. So that's a great point. Thank you. So if you're, that brings up another. So yes, if you have a disabled placard, you certainly can park in the disabled spot, but you can park anywhere downtown and not be subject to it. Hefty fine though if you're violating, if anyone's getting the thought creeping in, not in this group of course, but I'll just get one hang at hefty fine if you're misusing the handicap placards. I think another piece that I talked to I've talked to a lot of people about this. There's a lot of passion on both sides of this issue, and I think that's great. I think it's great that we have open communication. Adamant, very active kayaker, and said, well, how I kayak during the day and I park on Veterans and put in, and now I can't park there. Absolutely not. That's a customer. If you read the ordinance, maybe ordinance, please. But the ordinance defines what a customer is, and if you're using any public amenity, so if you come down here and you want to walk our river walk, you are a customer. You don't have to have a receipt for laughing popcorn. My daughter loves popcorn, that's why I keep going. You don't have to have a receipt for urban farm grill. You don't have to have a receipt. We're going to talk to you, and if you're using our amenities, you are a customer of our city. That's what we're looking for. It really is as simple. I know we've all been raised in this so overly litigious society that we're all looking for the loopholes. It really is this simple. It's the person that works down here that says, I don't give a shoot. I don't give a dime about any of you. I'm parking here anyway. That's what this ordinance is for. That's what we're going to say. Well then, okay, then you deserve a ticket, right? And it's going to take a lot of steps to get there. If you're here to walk the river walk, if you're here to ride a bird scooter, you park downtown and ride a bird scooter to Sierra Big Lots or any of those great stores, or Qdoba. Trying to name them all now, so I wasn't just hitting laughing popcorn. You're a customer. It's as obvious as it seems. If you're down here and you don't care about your neighbor and parking, we heard just horror stories. No, we understand parking's important. That's why we all park in front of, another business. Oh, that's good. Hi.
Is there going to be any follow-up meetings when Main Street closes down as to, where customers and employees are supposed to be parking?
Sure.
And,
There's a very robust communication plan for communication during the downtown project. Very robust, right? I sat through more meetings than I thought I ever would about things important things. But I'm so proud of our team. There'll be a very robust plan coming through. We just punched some dates out on our website. What was that? I think it was the first. Oh, it was our bid process. Here's Jay Shambo, everyone.
So we are reconstructing Main Street.
Oh yeah.
Reconstructing Main Street this year, and that project is about 90% done in design. We're going to go out to bid very soon. We'll be bid opening at the end of February and going to City Council the first meeting in March 6th, I believe. And Jess is pointing, so it's probably behind us. And once the bid opening occurs and we have a selected consultant, there will be a business meeting with the actual consultant, the contractor that is going to be reconstructing the road. And we're going to hold that meeting. We don't have a date yet because we don't know exactly where that is, but we're going to hold it in the City Hall in the police education room. And that meeting will be held at the end of March or early April, somewhere in there. But that'll be your opportunity to have a chance to chat directly with the contractor, and we'll all learn together their process, because we'd be speculating if we tried to guess at that process now before the contractor's even selected. Thank you.
And ongoing
Oh,
communication throughout the process.
yeah, thanks. There's been, so that's the initial meeting, and then we've talked about having like a weekly opportunity for constituents and business owners and employees to call into the city and have a chance to chat with a city staff member and ask a question. When that was mentioned at a recent public meeting, Max, our city engineer, spoke up and said, that's a great opportunity, but don't wait. If you have something burning as a constituent or a business owner downtown, grab somebody and ask them, and we'll make known who that inspector is on site and who you're able to contact directly and immediately. Certainly our office, if it's imperative, see something, say something, that chief would share 911, but there'll always be opportunities for that throughout the process.
Yep, thank you. That's a great question, though. You know, we hear, I'm sure, does anyone watch the news? Right? All we hear about is dysfunction in government. I'm really biased because I work for the city, but I tell you, I've worked here for almost 30 years. I'm so proud of our team right now. Every one of our department heads is engaged. Everyone in these meetings is concerned about you and you know what you're going to go through in the next 6-9 months, but it's going to be worth it. It's going to be gorgeous when it's done. But very functional, very much concerned, very much about representing you, our public, and getting us through this. So, yeah, thanks for asking and thanks for letting us talk about that. Very robust plan. What else we have? What else am I supposed to talk about, Lieutenant? All right, good. What's the next slide? Okay, we got that. There. All right. I'll be value your time as well. I'm sure you have things to do today.
I could just
Oh,
ask
yeah.
a question.
Hi.
Right, so are you going to be reviewing like the intersection of Hickory and 7th? Now that the parking on 7th Avenue on that road is there, I've had a number of staff members who have had near accidents from cars coming down from Walnut. They come down pretty fast down that hill. So either going left or right, people are really worried about parking there because those cars are right on top of the intersection. You can't see.
On
Not that they want
7th?
to take more parking.
Yeah,
though,
on
but-
7th Avenue?
Yeah, 7th
Okay.
and Hickory.
Let's talk after the meeting.
Okay.
I'll get a squad in the area and we'll keep an eye on that for accidents. So that's exactly our example. If you have a specific area, let us know. And we'll make a note, 7th and Hickory. We'll do a citizen services, it's called, and we'll have a squad just pay attention. Hopefully that would slow things down. And if not, we can take a look at one of our traffic safeties. Thanks. Thanks for bringing it up. What else you got? All ready to get going? Oh, yeah, hi.
How many people work downtown?
How many employees are downtown? We have really no idea because we no longer track. We've heard at some of the bid meetings numbers varying as much 300-400, but there's the city. I don't have a valid number for you. I could guess, but it'd be wrong.
So you said we could bring in chili, bring in soup.
Love a good soup, yeah, but you're bringing me a bowl, buddy. Yeah.
Let's make it.
Perfect. Yeah, we were just talking about you. How's the coop going? Uh-oh. Okay. Yeah, very good. Anyone else? Okay, I am Tim Dehring, so think of deer, the animal. I work at the police department. You have the number, you know where it is. You stop by and talk to me anytime. My door is always open to sit down and talk to you. My number's on our website, our email. You shoot me emails. I promise you, the people who have maybe in this room can vouch. You will get a response from me. And it won't be, I don't care. I promise you that.
That
Okay?
was like 10 minutes. I had emailed you and I was like, that's amazing.
Caught me on a good day. I can't guarantee 10, but I'll guarantee you will get a response. Well, thank you very much for coming. I do have a homework assignment for all of you, and it's twofold. One is just please share this message. There's a lot of people that probably have the same questions that couldn't make it. We're having another one on the 31st at 5:30, so encourage them to come to that one. Or you're now subject matter experts, so please just share that message. And please, the big message is that we're just trying to get good neighbors down here. And then my second is my homework that I always give. Please do one act of kindness today. Please, just one act of kindness. I don't care if it's just holding the door. That's how we'll change our world. Thank you.